what I'm trying to say is like even Deen has become such a male dominated field, like scholarship, and service. Like I know people, I know men, I know teachers, I know sheikhs who I've seen them be of service to other people, and it's beautiful. But why are they not more well known? Do you know what I mean? Why is the focus still so much like there's such an imbalance still, right?
I think whenever we pose these questions, we need to be very specific and very nuanced, because there are cultures where women are very vocally and very actively public in their teaching of Islam as Quran reciters. It is the norm for men to also cook and clean. That's part of their cultural norm, and it's part of their Muslim cultural norm. So when we say like, why aren't we? I think that is a generalization where some cultures, some masjid communities, some places, this is a practice. Why is it in those places and yet in other places we see that women are supported in entering these spaces and carrying these spaces and doing so with the support of men scholars and women scholars? What is the difference? And some of the reasons that I have traced in my research go back to outside factors that are not related to Islam. Because when we look at Islam, of course, we all know Aisha radiallahu anha was a scholar. We all know that she was a scholar, that the companions who were men and the tabi'un who were men would come to Aisha radiallahu anha and ask for knowledge. But she was not the only scholar who was a woman amongst the companions. And I know that I mention all the time Dr. Akram Nadawi's research and over 10,000 women hadith scholars throughout centuries. So we know that we have historically women in scholarship and women who are supported by men in scholarship. We have that documented. The question is, why did the change happen? And how did we get there? There were so many factors. One, more recent one, is that we can look at what happened during the Ottoman Empire. There was a lot of treachery amongst the Muslims and working with colonial powers. Thank you. They were working with colonial powers in order to gain a particular type of power. And the way that affected Muslim concepts of who we are today and how legal circumstances impacted religious conversations. I'll give you a small example. Egypt. In the early 1900s, women used to be Quran reciters on Egyptian radio. We have, for example, the famous Quran reciter, Muhammad Rifat, rahimahullah. We have newspaper clippings that show that he would recite in the same Quran segment as Karim al-Adiliya, who was one of the Quran reciters on Egyptian radio. So we have physical evidence that women and men used to recite on Quran radio together. We have documentation because we have their recordings where women are reciting, and we have men who are in the background, and you can hear their voices commenting on their recitation. So we have this understanding of women in these public spaces as teachers, as Quran reciters. But all of a sudden, supposedly in the late 1930s, it's very hard to find the actual fatwa, and Nadine Shakir, may Allah bless her, a journalist, went and looked for the specific fatwa but was unable. It seems untraceable. I've done so much research on it and can't find the specific fatwa. But what we can see is that in the way that women were banned from recitation, it almost happened overnight. There were a lot of political factors, though, that influenced what was happening in that time. Egypt was going from monarchy to presidency. Saudi Arabia was being created as a state instead of a specific area. The rise of the understanding of Saudi affecting different parts of the world. Azhar and the destability of Azhar at that time and the political connections. There was a lot happening politically. This fatwa did talk about the voice of a woman is awra, which to me is always surprising because scholars know that you can't make the statement that the voice of a woman is awra when in the Quran itself, the ayah itself mentions and speak clearly when addressed to women. So why would the Quran be telling women how to speak to men if a woman should not speak to men in the first place? But what we did see in that fatwa is that it didn't address women singers. Women could continue to sing on the radio. Women became singers without a problem. So women's Quranic recitation was banned because it was too tempting. but women singing was allowed to continue. So when we look at factors like that, we have differences of opinion in many areas, but there is no difference of opinion in a woman seeking knowledge and teaching other women. There's no difference of opinion on women teaching women. But if we have regions where women are not supported to even seek that knowledge, then we do not even have women who can teach women. Now, again, mashallah, especially today, we have so many supportive men, so many supportive organizations, so many supportive cultures where women are seeking that knowledge. But the point is, when we look at different aspects of colonization, when we look at the Greek philosophy being translated, have you read parts of Greek philosophy? Aristotle speaks about a woman coming, a woman is simply a reincarnation of a man who was not moral in character, who wasn't a strong man. We have these ideas that were seeped into Arabic texts and they were translated into Arabic. And then we have fatwa that were written, not fatwa, but commentary that was written, well, it could have included fatwa as well, that reflect those kinds of ideas, which are so far from what we see in the Quran and the Sunnah. And then, of course, we also have subhanAllah, I just slipped my mind right now. Oh, Isra'iliyat. So we have narrations that are not based in Quran or Sunnah, but can be used at times, but some of them should not be used for a number of reasons because they are not reflective of what the Quran and Sunnah actually teach. And yet sometimes they became popularized and they became spread and they had to do with the evil of women, or they had to do with why you shouldn't teach women, or they had to do with a woman should never leave her home except for, these are fabricated hadith, that women shouldn't leave their home except for when they're different things related to women, and do not consult women, consult a woman, and then do the exact opposite of what a woman says. So we have a lot that is not in the Quran and the authentic hadith that has impacted our thoughts and the way that we raise our girls and our boys. But as you mentioned, we have so many scholars who do deeply invest in women. All of my teachers have been men. I am so blessed to be the product of a father and a mother who deeply invested in me because they cared about me as a girl. I think that we have, alhamdulillah, so much of a rise of the conversation of going back to our religious tradition, the root of our religious tradition, the Quran and Sunnah, which amplifies the idea that women should be scholars, that women have been scholars, and that women need to continue to be scholars, inshallah.